mothers are getting together, and we're making a book of tips from different people. Sister Kathy's working very hard on that. Some of the tips that she shared with me. Give us a few of them. Give us at least 3 tips that you've texted to me. We're making a little books, a cookbook from the mothers and a tip book from the mothers.
All right. Well, I haven't got them on. One of the things I taught my daughter when she was starting cooking, that my grandmother taught me was that on a hot skillet, when you're going to fry meat, sometimes if you sprinkle it with salt, it'll keep your food from sticking. And then a while back, Pastor had the cracked tooth, and it was hurting, rubbing against his tongue, and it was on the weekend, and he couldn't get a dentist at that time to fix it. And I texted him and told him, if you chew a little bit of gum and just place it on that crack until you can get to the dentist, it'll keep it from rubbing on your tongue. And I don't know, there's a lot of them. there's a lot of them, but I would appreciate it if everybody would hand me a tip, one that you've used before that you know works. Something, I know everybody has at least 2 or 3 good tips, and then we can put them all together and,
Put your name on there.
Yeah, put your name on it for your tip.
And let them know who you were, that you gave us a tip. Amen. I want to talk about defining maturity and adulthood and talk about parenting tonight and the relationship of parents to children. First of all, there are 4 basic concepts of what adulthood and maturity is. First, there's a Western culture concept, an Eastern culture concept, a modern culture concept, and an ancient culture concept. So this means that people define parenting in certain ways. There's a difference between how we define culture in the Western civilization and Eastern. Even in the way you look at the way people dress and the way people look in the Eastern, we dress a certain way here, Western, they dress a certain way, they're Eastern. We're more loose in our dressing here. They're more conservative than they're dressing there. Just like they have different type of foods there, we have different kind of foods here. We eat hamburgers, they eat lamb. A lot of people over here eat pork, they don't eat pork. It's a different concept, all right? You also have a modern culture, the way that children and parents and people parent their children modern. They also have a way that people parent their children in ancient days. When I say ancient, I'm not talking about way ancient. I'll say, 20 years down the line, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, that's been a big change. So one of the things that we have children who are in a modern society. We have children in a modern society. That's it. That's good. We got children. So Sherry, you can. You got more to print. All right, we're going to pass these out. All right, if you will, Minister Tylex. So you have children that are in a modern society who are raised from parents who come from an ancient society or a different time period. Okay, so right society. Right here. So what you got parents that speak one language and children that speak another. So that's where the communication problem comes a lot of time with parents, because you got parents that are from a technical society, children are more technical, and you have parents who are generally from, okay, so you got to get that right. Right? Children who may be from parents who may be more from an industrial society. Let me kind of explain that. Sometimes what we may define as lazy, to our children, it ain't lazy to them, because we work from a society where we did a lot of hands. They work now, for instance, they can speak to stuff and it move. They can push remote controls and the TV turn. So they get their things done by technical ways where we're used to doing things. Think of the difference between the typewriter and the computer. Think of the difference between the sewing machine and now how children how they make clothes now. Think of the difference of how you drive and how you drive now. So this society is not necessarily, now we would define it because in our days we did things differently. So we would define a lot of their practice and a lot of their behavior as lazy that they don't consider lazy. They got a lawnmower now that you ain't even got to get out of the house to mow your lawn. You can sit down there and push a remote control now and mow your yard. They got a vacuum cleaner that you can put in the house and set it on the floor, and the vacuum cleaner will clean the house. So they're not necessarily, and I will use the term lazy, but they've become more reliant on something else to do it. And in our eyes it's lazy, but in their eyes it's normal. So sometimes when we're communicating to them, we're communicating from them from this place, and they're living in this place. Now that's about like going over there across the sea and trying to get the people over there to dress different and to eat different. So what we have to do in order for us to integrate and conversate with those people, we do have to try to understand what they're saying and understand what they're communicating. And I think one of the things that parents don't recognize is that your child speaks a different language than you speak. Now, for children, they need to know this. Our biggest problem in our culture in America from Western society and Eastern society is what we consider an adult. So that's what I want to talk about tonight. When do we consider a person has reached adulthood? Okay? Now, I want everybody to write what your definition of an adult is. Write it down. Your definition of an adult. All right? Everybody write down what your definition of an adult is. And I want to hear some of those. All right? All right, let's hear it. What's your definition? Okay. Okay. So we're going to say, when you get up a certain age, how many of y'all agree with that when you get a certain age? Let me see your hand. See your hand. All right. Now, that's the difference between us and Eastern civilization. In this society, we consider adulthood when you get a certain age. But in biblical and in Eastern society, adulthood is considered when you respond in these three areas differently. And I'm going to give you these three areas. So, Western society, age. Eastern society, and ancient society looked at an adult different. Get 1 Corinthians chapter 13. And this is the way that you should evaluate adulthood. And this is what you should be telling your children that you're going to be doing to determine whether they've reached adults or not. And not when you get 18 or when you get 21. Now, Western societies has set a number, and they said, well, by this number, they ought to be old enough, they ought to have gotten all the information enough that they should be an adult. Eastern society says, well, we're going to watch them and watch how they behave, and then we're going to classify them as an adult when they reach a certain behavior. And to be honest with you, they reach it earlier than we do. because they're taught that I'm going to be adult once I get these certain levels of thinking. And we're saying when you get 18, which means sometimes we lose 6 years of adulthood life because the adulthood in the Bible started at 12. Jesus said, "Don't you know I should be about my Father?" And the responsibility and things that they have are at a certain age are there because their goal is not to reach a certain age, and adulthood is not age-centered, but it's responsibility-centered. Look at the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and 11, and look what it says. Let's read it together. 13 and 11, On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. When I was a child, write that down. I spake. So adulthood is going to be governed by how you speak. So I can listen at the kind of conversation they hold, and I can tell by their conversation whether they have reached adulthood. Not the age, but now I'm going to tell by the conversation. I spake as a child, Come on. Then we're going to deal with their understanding, how they comprehend information. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. So we're dealing with their speech, their understanding, and their thought process for true adulthood. Versus over here, where you're dealing with a number, go 18. So guess what? You end up having a person who's 18, but haven't got into that. I spake, I understood, and I thought. So we're going to put how you speak, how you comprehend, and how you think. Okay? Now, one more key thing is the test of knowing that when you have reached manhood. Read that last part of it. Let's read that together. But when I became a man, I put away, and also by what you no longer do, putting away childish things. Let's talk about that. So that's how you really should govern adulthood. Now, you know what the problem that comes into the home and the problem that comes in relationships with children is this. When they are taught that when you reach here that you're grown, and not when you reach here, you have a child that has reached that and got none of that. And he wants to be treated like an adult, but he has not reached adulthood, but you've trained him that he's an adult when he's 18 versus an adult when he do this. So let's try to evaluate some of the stuff you say and some of the stuff that really can tell when a person has reached adulthood. Because a lot of time, older people who are sometime in their 20s, 30s, and 40s are still talking as children. And the parents who know that all of these should really be there with adulthood are still treating them like they're 10 because they're still talking like they're 10. Because their conversation, now, I'm going to tell y'all this, and I'm talking about people that's not 18, 19. If you take the time and go over Facebook and look at some of the posts that people make on Facebook that are supposed to be grown and see the stuff they put on, you can tell right there you're dealing with children right there, even though they're 30 and 40 years old. Number one, mature adults don't go on Facebook and put all their business out there. It's ignorant and it's foolish. It's the most ignorant thing you ever said. People arguing back and forth on Facebook, family members going back and forth on Facebook. That adults don't do that because adults learn how to handle things maturely. That's stupidity. But those same people, when you speak to them and tell them about that, how you speak as a child, let an adult go to them and tell them, and they tell an adult, I'm grown. You know why they say they're grown? Even though they're still speaking childishly, because they think that that's grown. But you and I consider those that have reached true adulthood, we consider this grown. So we're saying, even though you're 18, 28, 38, 48, your behavior is this, and this then causes a parent to treat you like you're 3 because you're still talking like you're 3. You're still acting like you're 3. So the conflict is this. The conflict is this. Is they got the size, they got the age, but don't have the speech. So he said, I spake as a child. I look, and it's a fad, but I still think it's childish. Not childish to the point of sin, but look how Facebook is bringing grown people back to child. Look at them got the little Mickey ears on their thing talking. That's childish stuff. That's not, it's not, listen to me. It's not a sin, but it is childish. Here's a grown, mature woman. A man. That's really childish. You should be you know what I mean? You are a mother now. You are a husband now. You really should have matured. And so we're still doing little childish games. You know, maybe she would, but I think my mother has reached the age, I think she's kind of over the games, over the playing. Those are things that your children should be doing. They should be enjoying. They should be laughing at that. They should be clowning on that. But then here's I mean, really? Now, is it a sin? No. But you got to remember, you're trying to reach a level of maturity where you're being looked upon as a woman. There's a lot of things I don't do because I'm a man. I feel like that puts me back to a certain class, back to a certain level. So I want to be looked at as a man. I want to be looked at. So a lot of this Facebook stuff is bringing us back to childish behavior. Y'all ain't saying much. Now, is it a sin? Don't go tell nobody, Pastor said sin to put the ear on the sin of that, but I'll talk about that later. That's a whole different talk. I can explain it in more details, and I'll go into that more detail. Yes, sir. Right. Yeah. What Joe said, his grandma interpreted it as being a young person. You don't talk like grown folk. Well, so what Paul is showing in this is really immaturity. Let me give you an example. I want you to watch this. When it says I spake as a child, what he's really talking about too is people who have conflicts and refuse to talk, refuse to communicate. You know, there are people who have conflicts in the church, and rather than talk those conflicts out as women, they don't talk. They just avoid talking. If you go and look up the word I spake, when I was women, I put away childish things. Get that word childish. Nick, look that word up, childish, in the Greek. That word childish. Should be 3:15 in the Greek. It should be the word napuos. Just check it out. Childish in 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and 11. And I want you to see one of those definitions of that word is non-speaking. Right? Once you get it, let me know. You got it? I spake as a child. I comprehended as a child. That's very important, comprehending. You know, there are things that are just adults that you try to get people to understand and get them to get the concept on, and they can't get it. You take a child that's got a job, they got car insurance. It's hard to get them to perceive that you need to pay your bills and not just have all these dress clothes and all this stuff nice, but your car's you're not paying for your car. It's kind of hard to get them to see that. Kind of hard to get them to see why you say certain things. Like, hey, you need to be home at a certain time. Hey, you don't need to do such and such, because they don't comprehend. And they're really in opposition of what you're saying, because there's a conversation and there's a level of understanding that only adults can comprehend. And I got to be honest with you. There are some things that my mother told me as a child that I fussed with, I fought with, and I didn't understand, and I thought her rules were so hard and so rough. But as I got older and got children, my whole understanding of what my mother said was right and wrong. And until you get to that age that you can really understand what I'm really saying and get it without being offended, you can tell when a person has reached a certain age, now somebody can tell them something that they no longer, that they couldn't understand. They couldn't get. You tell your teenage daughter that, hey, you don't need to be on the phone 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning to this guy. This is my phone, I pity it, but you don't understand the concept. You're not carrying yourself woman-like, and he won't respect you. Tell a young lady, you know, you tell her, hey, you don't need to be buying this boy's stuff. You say, well, this is my money, I do what I want. But they're not comprehending. See, as you get older, you've had experience enough with things, and you've seen enough with things until you start comprehending stuff from a aspect. There are certain things I do now that are simply protective. You was going to say something? They're simply protective. I see things different now as I did when I was younger. Driving, speeding. Man, I used to speed until as I got older, man, they get my money for no reason. You start disciplining yourself. Some of the risks that I took then, I don't take those same risks now. Some of the desires of stuff that I wanted, some of the desires of stuff that I would buy and purchase that were ignorant purchases. Some of the time that I wasted doing things that I used to sit up with my friends. We didn't have all this stuff. Now I used to sit up with them and play Uno sometime till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, just sitting around the table playing Uno and drinking, sodas and all that, because we couldn't drink beer, and sitting up there playing and just laughing. 2 or 3 hours was a waste of time. But as I started getting older, I started putting myself in the books. I started putting myself into education. I started educating myself. But that only came with being older. You start to comprehend. And so parents, when I'm saying certain things to you, and I'm communicating certain things to you, and you can't pick up those things that I'm saying, and I know a normal adult that had reached a certain age could get those things, and they could comprehend those things. Like you telling your young daughter, say, hey, baby, you don't need to be going out the house like that. You're showing too much. And I buy my own clothes, but you're not comprehending what I'm trying to say. That means you haven't reached the level of adult. That man ain't gonna respect you. You haven't reached that level of adult. You haven't got it. So, and the problem is when you try to and listen, trying to let's talk about comprehending. Even just trying to talk with some of our young people about what they're dealing with, just saying something, just mention it, becomes combative. Just to say something, guess what? They're not comprehending. They're not comprehending as a child. They're not getting it. The things that my mama told me with my children, things that she told me how to handle them, things that she told me how to raise them, things that she told me how to do them. I'm going back now, and even things that she told Sister Cowart and they ministered to her, she had to learn those things. And some of you all who think that your parents are against you, they're really not against you. Some of them are really trying to help you, and some of you are so bullheaded that you can't hear it. Some of the stuff that they're telling you is right, but that's because you comprehend as a child. And then they said, I thought as a child. But let's talk about, go to the book of Luke, chapter 2 and 46. Luke 2 and 46. Go quickly. Anybody want to give any questions or comments at this time? I'm open for it. See, as Jesus got older, he's communicating with a whole different people. I want you to watch him at 12 years old and watch who he's communicating with. As you start growing, you start communicating with people that got the same level of communication that you have. Yes, sir. How do you connect the ones that
we were industrial. The kids now are technical. How you connect?
I think one of the things that, and Ivan has brought a good question, how do you connect the modern society and culture with ancient society? How do you show the bridge? Because one of them think that the thing that we do, of course, crazy and stupid in the time of waste, and then the way we speak to others. Let me give an example of that. My mother wanted to know everybody I met, everybody I was dealing with, to know who they are and who their people was if I brought them to the house. Our kids now, the world is their friends. They can meet somebody on the other side of the world and communicate with them on Facebook and have a comfortable relationship with them and bring them to your town. And they never met them before. You don't know if they're killers or what. And for me, that's uncomfortable. If I hear my daughter, my children talking to somebody and say, well, who is that? You ever met them before? Because I know your people, your family, I know everybody. But now, their neighborhood is different from our neighborhood. Their neighborhood is the world. Our neighborhood was down the street. So the only way for us to be able to understand, the Bible said all I getting is getting understanding. You got to bring them into your realm, and you got to be willing to go into their realm. They got to be willing to learn the typewriter, and you got to be willing to learn the computer. You got to be willing to learn how they behave and what they comprehend and the words they say, because there are words that they say, there are conversations that they have that I need to learn those so I can speak them. But so when they're talking, I want to be able to know what they're saying. I mean, they got words that they say that, we don't have no, let's get lit. I say lit, and they change every now and then. So it might, what they had today may be different. So each generation have a different word, and I say words now. They laugh at the words I used to say. Lame used to be a word, but they got another word. It ain't lame no more. He lame. They go to something else. And we used to call that jive talk. That's what we call it, jive. They call it urban and all that now. We got a different name. So you got to be willing. They got to be willing to learn each other. They got to be willing to learn each other's culture, and we got to be able to learn it without criticizing, when it does not compromise Christian values. Y'all follow me? When it doesn't compromise Christian values. Now, when it violates the culture of the Bible, because the Bible has its own culture. When it violates the culture of the Bible, we got to be willing to say, wait a minute. This is against the word. This ain't just against culture. So I got to be willing to step overboard and learn some of what they at. And they got to be willing so we got to teach each other. Let me teach you what this means. And then you teach me what that is. Now I got a better understanding and a better view. Somebody else is going to say something. Yes, ma'am. You should say, That comes again with understanding as a child. Let me give you this example. You should know if my mother is 45 and I'm 30, that she got 15 years in this world that I didn't have. So I should look at her. Our kids are not taught to that. I should look at her as having more experience than I have and listen. That's understanding as a child. Our children don't understand that, okay, maybe there's some things that I don't know, but there are some things at having 15 years of experience that I got. And you should be able to listen just because I got the experience. just to listen, just to consider that I know more than you. Our children now are not even willing to acknowledge that you know more than them in something. And if I know more than you in something, at least sit down, even if you don't do it, and hear what I got to say. They don't even want to hear. They don't even hear. They're in a whole world of their own. They feel like they can exist in that world. They don't want to hear anything you have to say. But that's part of adulthood. Adulthood says somebody knows more than I know. Somebody has more information than I have. Let me give you something. Go down, and I'm coming back. Go ahead, Sister Sherry. You're going to say. Watch how this works. Understood as a child. Probably when you were younger, or I know when I was younger, my mom would tell me that I couldn't go stay certain places, and I would cry and pout and get mad and say, why? All you want to do is keep me locked up in this house like I'm a little old pet or a child. But now, as you got older, as you got older, I now understand, not as a child, but I understand as an adult. And your whole concept about children going to stay in somebody else's house changed, because now you done went from a child to an adult. And see, they have to understand that their mindset is going to change at one particular time. And their thought period is going to change at one particular time. So why not let me give you, since you're going down there, let me help you get some adult thinking in you ahead of time, because it's going to change. It's going to change. How many of y'all had problems when your mama told you you couldn't stay at certain places and you felt like she was holding you? Now, how many of y'all now don't let your children go to different places? You see the difference? But what is the difference in you changing your concept? Because now you comprehending different. You comprehending from a whole different perspective. Amen. So again, it comes back to, at least sometime back to Ivan's question, modern and ancient, at least giving you the understanding of why. Now I know parents say, I don't have to explain nothing to you, and I don't. And I don't have to explain nothing to you. As a child, I don't have to explain nothing. And I still stand to that. I don't have to explain to you nothing. But as a child in the house living with me as an adult, sometime I would explain so that you would understand the logic behind, and as you get older, it's more easier for you to understand why. So sometimes with my children, I said, now you can't go over such and such time. Why everybody else get to go and everybody? And when I pop up something that happens, I say, you see, that's why. That's my reasoning right now. So I want y'all to understand something. I used to sit them down, sit down with them down, and say, now y'all preachers' children. And any little thing that y'all do, it can reflect us and make people look at the church differently. So y'all can't go everywhere. Y'all can't do everything. So we have to sit down, and it was challenged because they come back, but why? But we have to sit down, and as they start getting older and we start planning those things out too. So there are times as an adult, I want my child to think like I think. I want to give them that kind of knowledge to help them to be able to think. So it's important to take your child and say, okay, you know what? Today, I'll tell you right now, I guarantee most of our children don't know anything about that rotary phone that we use. Nothing at all. Probably none of them don't know about the party line. How many of y'all remember the party line and the private line? Everybody that know the difference between a party line and a private line, raise your hand. Okay? I guarantee you, unless you're from Georgia, y'all still have them in Georgia? That's right. It's still here. It's still here. Now let me see how many of you all remember the party line? How many of y'all remember you could pick up your phone and hear people in your neighborhood and other people conversation on the phone, and you had to wait till they got through to use the phone? So they be on you hear the phone and say, oh, they still on the phone. And you can sit and hear the person whole conversation. Because people in the neighborhood shared the same line. How many of y'all remember when you dial 0 and get an operator? And if two people was talking on the line, you could ask the operator to break through the line and tell them, an operator, beep, they break through the line and say, you got a call trying to get to you. Y'all remember that? Our young people don't know nothing about that. They don't know nothing about, all they know about when you get the operator, you call 911. But see, if you give them that understanding, you give them that communication, there are different things that they understand, and they will get a better understanding of it. Amen. All right? How many of y'all got that? Now listen, so I spake as a child, I understood as a child. Let's go over to the book of Luke chapter 2 and 46. Maturity starts happening when you start changing the people that you talk to, and you start communicating with a whole different level of people. You stop communicating childishly. You start communicating with adult conversation. You start talking adult conversation. I am really, you know what I do sometimes? I don't do it all the time, but I just go sometime on Facebook and just look at the level of immaturity that young people have in their 30s and 40s and 20s, some with children. It's really ignorant. I would never, there are things I would want to be hid. I would never go publicly and introduce my whole life to the world. Now, you know why? Now you and I guarantee you, we're talking to the Jerry Springer and Maury generation. And we're talking to the generation that have reality TV. And see, what they don't understand, those people on reality TV, they look stupid. Everybody that's going on Jerry Springer and all that, they look stupid, and they ought to look stupid. But you live in a neighborhood, and people will laugh, and they will comment, they will like all the stuff you say, and when they get through, they'll still call you stupid and crazy. I look at some of the stuff that our young people have on I just shake my head. I just shake my head and say, "Now, Lord, this is just really, this is crazy. This is like this is a whole nother level of stupid." But they don't see nothing wrong with it. Why you don't think they see nothing wrong with it? Because they're raised in Jerry Springer, and they're raised in Maury, they're raised in that. And so what they saw other people who display that on, and now I'm going to tell you, there are some ways that young people do things that are better than the way we do them. They are. We got to acknowledge. There's some things that are easier that they do, and we got to acknowledge when they're easier. I'll be honest with you, I like the new phones that they was raised up, better than the ones I was. We can do a whole lot of stuff on them things. We can look up stuff, we can do stuff real quick. I like that better than that phone we had to ring on, okay? But there are some things that are dead wrong, and they got to be willing to listen. That stupidity of having an exposed life on Facebook is ignorant. And your parents, that generation that taught you to keep your business in your house and to keep your stuff private and don't display your stuff, they are right. One thing that it teaches you, and I'm going to say this, I'm going to come to you to Brother Ivy. The first thing that's wrong with it is, one, you're dealing with people who have made the world their family. And they don't have true family. Because true family will tell you you're stupid. And you need to take it down. You need to stop it. Because it's ridiculous. That's what true families say. Parents, mothers, fathers, siblings. But now you know what's going on now, because a lot of them are in the ignorant generation. They're out there too. You see? But biblically, don't let your left hand know what your right hand doing. Home affairs, those things should be at home. personal affairs that should be personal. I mean, everything out there. Yes, sir, Brother Ivan. Oh, yeah. Look at the talk shows that we looked at. What it was, Murray, the Murray Griffith show, all them kind of things. Look at the difference. Look at it. That's what's going on. You see, and so television and has taught them this is the way to go. But you got to remember that, you got to have somebody from that generation to preserve you as a woman, or preserve you as a young man. And you can't live like you've seen these people live. But the problem is they don't want that parenting part because they feel like, I got grown here. If you're 20 and still ain't got that, you need some more parenting. So don't cut off the parenting at 18. And you know, the generation now, the difference between the generation then and the generation now is that our parents will force themselves to tell you what you should not do and should do, even though you were grown in number. But now, you know, people call the police on their own mama when they come and try to tell them, their own father, get out of my house. But our parents would force themselves to give us information, but parents now are scared because it's not easy for children to cut you off now and disassociate themselves with you and shut you down if you tell them something that they don't like. They stop answering their calls, they stop talking to you, they keep their grandchildren away from you and all those silly things because you've said something to them that they don't like. So parents are afraid to even tell their children how they feel to help them because they're in fear that they're going to be cut off, because if they say something about them, about their children, they take about 2 or 3 weeks, they stay away from you, won't answer your phone, won't talk to you, and parents are literally scared and they're held in an emotional prison and can't even help their children simply because if they desire to help them and tell them something, they're going to shut them off. Or they're going to run away, or they're going to go somewhere, or they're going to do something. Or you ain't going to hear from them again. My mama is the type of person that even when we were married, she don't run our house, but we had the type of parents, if they knock on that door, they don't mind saying, hey, I know y'all in there, don't be trying to ignore me. You need to, it's nothing for Sister Cowart's grandmother to come to her and say, Lisa, why did you let them children out that house with nothing covered over their head? They're going to get a cold. And by the time we got home, I promise you, by the time we got home, I got a call. I could hear Lisa's mama on the phone. Mama told me you was out there and them kids, they had nothing over their head, Lisa. I did. Well, mama said you didn't have nothing over there. I did have it. Mama said that little thin thing that you had, that's what you do. I promise you. And by the next day, her mother will be at our house with some coats. Don't you have them out there like that no more. They're going to get the whooping cough. They're going to get the whooping cough. They're going to get this. Amen. Yes, ma'am. That's the new pacifier. That's the new pacifier. That's the new pacifier. Look at Luke chapter 2 and 46. Is this making sense? So Luke 2 and 46, everybody get it. When you get it, say praise the Lord. Second chapter, 46 verse. Jesus' conversation changed as he matured. 12 years old, 2 and 46. Look what it says. All right? 2 and 46. Who gonna read for me? Somebody read it. As Jesus got older, look where his company started going. Look where he started. Look where he's drawn to. He's drawn to doctors and lawyers at 12. See how his maturity levels changed? He's not throwing rocks. He's not out there playing. But at 12 years old, he's with the doctors. He's with the lawyers. He's got himself a whole nother set of hanging around at 12 years old. You're going to tell by your maturity by who you're around, who you're with, what you're connecting with, what you're around, what you're drawn to. It's nothing wrong with your phone and looking at things, but what are you drawn to on them? At 30, at 40, at 20, what are you drawn to? Where are your interests now? What do you spend the most of your day doing? What are you considering now? At 20 years old, at 30 years old, at 35 years old, are you centering yourself around adult things, placing yourself around adult things, placing yourself around adult behaviors? Jesus at 12 years old now, most 12 years old, they may want to go to a theme park. You might have saw them somewhere playing with Nintendo or something. But here's a 12-year-old around doctors and all these things in the temple. Because somehow, speaking as a child, and look what it says. Read what it says. Read.
And all that heard him.
Verse 46.
And it came to pass that after 3 days they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the doctors, both hearing them and asking them questions.
All right, go that. Joash was 8 years old when he began to reign. You got kings that were 7 years old and 8 years old and running countries at 7 and 8. 7 and 8 years old. And they're running countries. David, 17 years old. All these guys in these young ages leading and having responsibility because the parents didn't wait till they got 18. They was teaching them to get these, thinking, comprehending. You know, there's a lot of older people ran away from their house when they were younger at 16, 14, 12 and 13. Some of them left 12 and 13. Matter of fact, the average person that got married back 50 and 60 years ago, they were 16 and 15 years old. And if you look at those people now that got married at 16 and 15 years old, they've been married 40 and 50 years. How do you get people at 50? See, listen, the level of maturity of a woman back then, and they had a lot of them grown, they considered being grown at 16. They changed the level of time because the immaturity level changed. I can ask some of y'all right now, how old was your parents when they got married? And they can, you know, how old was your parents? How old was your mother? 13.
And they've been together almost 6 to 8 years.
13 years old. How do you get a woman 13 years old and get married and understand how to operate a house? Because somebody taught them that the age, they put something in them earlier. So you got to communicate that. So what's happening now? They're 18, 20, and 30 and still ain't mature to have a home. And here's a woman 13 years old. Why? Because we ain't trying to put this in there. And then when you tell them that you ain't ready, you ain't mature, you ain't grown, based upon what? Based upon what I see, based upon the level of communication that you have, based upon the decisions that you make, based upon the thing that you do, you're not. And guess what? You start telling them, I'm grown. You treat me like a child. I'm grown. I'm an adult. What says you're an adult? What qualifies you as an adult? The number of these things here: speaking, comprehending, thinking, putting away childish things. What says you're grown? The number, or have you accomplished these here? Amen. Is making any sense? All right, Proverbs 22 and 15. Somebody else had their hand up. Yes, ma'am. Well, but you know, the thing is, both have to be respected. The older person has to be respected, and the younger person has to be respected. Both. There comes a time that you sit down, even if you don't agree with what they're saying, both concepts or both listening have to be respected, and then I have to come to some conclusion based upon what's right and what's wrong. So what I do a lot of time, I sit down, I give scenarios, I give thoughts, I give conversation, and say, now, you tell me which one of these look back. Now, if I'm presenting to you something that's really logically right, and you still don't get it, then I say, something wrong. Boy, I should have done something because this head here messed up. Because if I can sit down and really logically tell you this, and then sometimes what I'll do that helps so that they don't think it's just me, I'm going to get 3 or 4 other people who have nothing to do with the conversation, give them a scenario, and ask them, what do you think? And then let that person say the same thing based upon all of the same knowledge and give the scenario, and they say, suddenly say, you see, I'm not thinking like this just by myself, right? You understand that? You may, you should be whatever it takes for them to learn. Because it is just as complicated sometimes as adults to learn what they need to learn as children to learn what they need to learn. And then we have to also ask ourselves, if our children have gotten a certain age, and it's not all cases, but if our children have got a certain age and there's some things that they don't have, you got to ask yourself, where was you? What did you put in there? I expect by a certain thing, not all the time, but I expect by a certain time my children should know certain things. Now, if they know it and just ain't doing it, that's one thing. But I ask myself a lot of times, because I go and say, man, wait a minute, did we miss something here? Did we miss something? I question myself. Did we miss something? How did we get something? Did we miss something? Did something we put out? So we need to come back and discuss this and see. We need to come back because they're thinking different. Their mindset different. So you ask yourself that. But when you know you've done, then you can go back and bring it back. Now, remember when I used to tell you this? Yes, ma'am. Well, I think what we're dealing with, one aspect is a church aspect, which the flesh gets in, and they just want to do what the flesh say. That's one aspect. Even if you don't want to be saved, it's some things that your parents ought to tell you without you being saved, just natural help that you should want to do because it can help better your life. So there's 2 different things. So spiritually, people get in the flesh, that spirit get on them, they run after the flesh, they run after the things of the world. That's sin. But you know, you can be a smart sinner. You're dumb for the things of God, you're going to hell, but there's some things as a sinner, that some concepts that my sisters and my brothers have got from my mother that they applied that help them. I got a sister right now in Lakeland. She's single, but that girl, that my sister Avis, she gonna keep a clean house. She gonna keep a clean house. She gonna keep some food in there. Them two things she gonna keep, and she's gonna keep a job. She is going to keep a job. They are going to work, and they are going. That's something they're gonna do. That house clean. Now, they ain't saved, but there are certain concepts that my mother put in them, and, you know, that's where the problem comes. And sometimes it becomes discouraging because you ask yourself, but it goes back to that mentality, that world mentality, that thought mentality, that mindset mentality. I've got one of the things that I think that we have a big dilemma is when they get a certain age, they get to a certain place, that number qualifies them in their mind as smart as you. That number in their mind qualifies them on the same level as you. We got to get that number out of our head. And we got to start evaluating, because I've seen people 40 and 50 years old. I never forget, I had a friend of mine, I won't call his name. He was probably one of the most childish young men that I ever seen in my life. And he was older than me. We go down there to eat at restaurants. He eat all the jelly at the things at the table. We go to restaurant. I was ashamed. I would be ashamed to have him go places with me. And he was an adult. And I know that his mother didn't raise him that way, because his mother was a very high class lady. She had high standards, very high standards. But man, I would take him places, and he would eat and eat and eat, and when he be eating, I mean, juice coming out of his mouth. Ooh, this good. That's part of what helped me make that book on protocol. That embarrassing behavior. My mother, listen to that thing that would happen. My mother could send me in a house, and when I get in that house, especially when we visit somebody's house, I had instruction before I went there. Don't ask to go to the bathroom. You about to hold it. I said, I got to pee. You should have did it before you get home. You about to hold it. You better not ask to go. And if they ask you for something, don't do that. Don't sit there. Sit yourself still. And she could sit there and have us sit there and nobody would move. You can say something to this generation now and tell them, make the children sit down. Well, they just move. They just want to play. The whole different generation. But they're not listening. They don't get the concept of listening. Yes, ma'am. And so, go ahead. Right. Right. Yeah, and that's true. You know, one of the things I did, and is very important, I tried to sit down, and I think we kind of, you know, my children are, you know, they've reached an age that the world would call adults by the world standard. But I try to sit down and talk with them. There are things that Sister Cowart and I, we may see something that's wrong, we'll talk about it and discuss it. I say, now which one of us need to go and approach it, which one of us need to go say something, and we need to sit down with them and talk. And Sister Cowart will talk and say something. By the time she get through, one of them call me and they'll say, hey, Daddy, I talked to Mama, and she said this, and said such. I said, well, yeah, did you hear the reason of what she was saying? Did you understand why she said that? Did you get what was behind what she said that? Did you understand, did you comprehend what your mother was saying? Did you see what your mother was saying? Because even as adults, even as what they call, I still feel as though, and this is what our kids have to understand, I still feel as though whether you're 25, 30, or 40, you still need my help. You don't need me to tell you what to do or how to guide you, but there are areas that you're going in your life that you're going to need me probably until you die. Probably until you die. And that this 18 and 19 is not a cutoff age. It's not a cutoff age. You still may need my counsel, or still may not my control, but you're going to need my counsel. I'm not trying to control your life, but you're going to need my counsel. You're going to need my direction. You're going to need me to deal with certain things that you're going through, and you should respect my voice. Even if, but the society says, this is the problem, that number. I'm grown. I'm grown. You know what grown means now? No more parenting. You have to tell me nothing else. I'm grown. I can figure out on my own. I do what I want to do. I got my own children now. I got my own house now. This is my stuff now. That's what they mean. And that means at that point, you're off. So what we have tried to do is be connected all the way, communicate all the way. I'm grateful for Sister Cowart that when Isha in her wedding, her mother was allowed to talk, and her mother pushed herself in certain places. No, we need to do this. We was trying to figure out how we're going to get everybody involved in the church, because we couldn't have no wedding that we invite some group to the reception and others not. So we need to create a means that, because this is your family, this is your church, these people have been with you all of your life, and so we need to have two. We need to have a before and we need to have the after, so that everybody's included. Her mother said, no, that's wisdom. So if we have to pay a little extra and do it, this is your family, so there's no way. So we'll have to have two events. She have no problem. Okay, Mama. Okay, that's what. But to be able to communicate, you can't tell some of them that. You can't even say nothing. You can't even you can't even give advice. You can't even give advice. So that goes back to, when they're at that point, that goes back to understanding as a child and thinking as a child. Because listen, this is the point, and I want you to get this, and I'm coming to you. This is the point. Now we got to remember the way we approach it, the way we say it. But if you think my suggestion is a means of me trying to control you, you're thinking as a child. Because think about it. Listen. You are 30 years old, 40 years old. Anything I tell you, you ain't got to do none of it. I can't make you do nothing. So to sit down and let me communicate with you and tell you my thoughts and tell me, that shouldn't bring any kind of upsetness. That shouldn't bring any kind of anger. Because guess what? Ultimately, you ain't got to do what I say. But you get offended because I'm telling you, and then you're saying, oh, you act like I'm grown. But I'm just telling you what I think. I don't think you need to do this like this. I don't think you need to. I'm grown. I don't think you should be having that on your page. This is my page. I'm grown. See, it's already showing me right now that you think somebody advising you or somebody suggesting you is somebody trying to control you, so you don't have it yet. Yes, ma'am. Sister Nisha, get Proverbs 22 and 15. Yes, ma'am. Talk a little loud. Your own place don't mean nothing. I'm not coming to your own place trying to control it. Okay? If I come to my son's house, my daughter's house, that's their house. He's in charge of that house. He's the head of that house. I'm not going over there with demands. My daughter's husband is the head of her house. But receive my instructions and respect my instructions and sit down and hear my instructions. Listen to what I'm saying. Respect that enough to sit down that I can come to that house and talk, say, hey, let me sit down and talk to y'all. I want to give y'all advice. No, I just don't think. And once you get older, and it's really getting older, and they're getting mature, you're not going to have to go and ask them. As they start getting mature and respecting adulthood, they'll start making a call to you. Say, hey, I'm getting ready to make a decision. I just want to see what you think about that, Dad. I want to see what you think about that. Give me your suggestions on that. Because now that means they have reached to the level that they understand who you are in their life and where you should be in their life and what place you should be in their life. And that's why it's important that we as parents that have children, that you display that in front of them as well. That you display that with your parents as well. So that, because people going, one of the things that you can believe, Bishop McLeod and the bishops, all of them, they get much respect. Bishop McLeod gets much respect. Bishop Shaw gets much respect. You know one of the reasons? It's because they give much respect. Bishop McLeod don't mind publicly honoring me, Bishop Shaw. And so what? That causes the congregation. So you that have parents, honor your parents. Show your respect to your parents so your children can have an easy display of that. So they can see that and see that displayed. And then it makes it easier for them to do it. It makes it very easy for them to do it. Y'all with me? Is making any sense? You had another question? Any other question or comment? All right, get Deuteronomy 22. I'm going to get Sister Cass, get Deuteronomy 22 and 15. Yes, ma'am. Well, uh, my day, your day, they day, if I'm paying the rent and you in my house, it's my day. I don't care what day you came from. It's my house, it's my bills, it's my rule, it's my day. Let me tell you what. My mother told my sisters, and they were grown, had children. Matter of fact, they would ask me to keep their children. Mama said, no, he ain't keeping their children. He ain't keeping them. Tell me, I'm going to pay you to keep them. No, he ain't keeping your children. You laid up there, got them, you find somebody to keep them yourself. He ain't going to keep them tonight. When she got upset. 12 o'clock was my mama deadline. I'll never forget it. When that clock swung 12, you get home. If you're not home at 12 o'clock, my mama said that midnight in the Bible, Matthew chapter 12, at midnight the cry was made. At midnight, that was their curfew to be home at midnight. You know, people just starting clubbing at 12 o'clock. So they, one day, got home like 12:01 or 12:02. 2 minutes behind. 2 minutes behind. They come knocking on the door. My mama said, go where you came from. Mama, she said, you not tell time? Because they said, Mama, it's 12:02. She said, oh, well, you do know how to tell time. Because you know what time it is. What time did I tell y'all to be home? Lock the door. Nobody could, that was it. So, when they're in the household, they ought to respect the household rules. You make those rules, they stand, and you can't get upset about it. They're giving you a place to stay. So, that's my mama rule. That's the rule that she had, the rules that my mother had. No smoking in her house, no drinking in her house. She said, don't turn her house to no whole house. I don't want no guys in my house or no women in my house when I'm not here. That was that. That was just period. Point, blank, simple, and she meant it, and that was it. There wasn't nothing for her to come in the room, wake you up if you sleep over a certain time, like, 10 or 11 o'clock in the day and you still there and stuff ain't done. I could hear her fussing in the whole house, just lazy, just plumb lazy. Get out of here. And this is what you could hear her say. Now, if I got to go out there and work and do it, you ain't going to be sitting up here while I'm working. I got to come home and do everything else. Get out of that bed. That house be lit up. And when she come in there with that, get out of that bed. I can't do it and you can't do it. Somebody come out. I don't hoe up in my house. Ain't nobody else going to hoe up in my house. I don't do this. Ain't nobody going to do it in my house. And if you feel like you do, bro, get out. And what I'm hollering, well, mama, you ain't got to threaten me. I ain't threatening you. Get out. That's the rules and laws that she had put in the house. And those were the standards. Now, listen, we're going to go to Deuteronomy 22 and 15. So foolishness is bound in the heart of a what? Child. Think about some of the foolish conversation and the foolish stuff that are done. Foolish, crazy, stuff that don't make no sense. You grown and having food fights. Food too high. Man, I wish you would be in my mama's house having a food fight, playing with food, adults playing with food on the Facebook. Mama, groceries too high. We can play, all kind of stuff now. People doing, playing with stuff, playing with food, different things like that. All these challenges. The smash the egg challenge. My mama would, you got bills, you got food, you talking about the smash the egg challenge. I wish we would have smashed the egg. You break that egg if you want to. The water challenge, I wish I would be out there talking about a water challenge in my mama's house. And I'm using the water out there, man, my mama didn't play that. But you're not dealing with children, people that are thinking like adults. When I was a child, I spake as a child, understood as a child. Foolishness is bound in the heart of a what? Child. Then the decisions that we make. 1 Peter 1 and 13. Look at their buying choices. Look at the buying choices. Look at their purchases. 1 Peter 1:13.
Wherefore, gird up the loins of your mind, be sober, and hope to the end.
See, sober ain't just talking about drunk, but you got to have a sober mind. Think soberly. Make sober decisions. A lot of our young people don't make sober decisions. Spending like $500 and $600 on a pair of shoes, that ain't sober. $500 and $600 on a pair of shoes and got bills that's behind. That ain't sober. Sober thinking. I said this earlier today because I've been talking to couples. I've been talking to, I had so many I've been talking to. I just got on Facebook. Let them watch it on Facebook. A lot of them be on there with foolishness anyway, so I figure they can watch it there. I just put it on Facebook because I had so many of them that I've been counseling about some of the stuff. So I said I need to put some of this out. Just let it go out so they can hear it. Some of the decisions that they make are not sober decisions. Are not, and somebody in a household have to have sobriety in their decisions and not just spend at the moment of whatever you see or whatever you desire, whatever you want. They have to think of the whole mindset. And in most cases, it should be the man, but sometimes it's the woman. But even the man have to be mature enough to know when it is a woman that thinks differently about money. When we first got money, I was mature enough to understand that Sister Cowart can handle money better than me until I found out I had more money left than I did, and then I took my money back. And I started paying them and different things like that. But so Scott, we was living in the house, and it was small, 3-bedroom, bath and a half, and then everybody else was getting these big old houses, and she came to me and told me, said, we need a bigger house. Why don't we just rent a house and we can have her? I said, no. I said, I won't do that. She said, why? She said, why? I said, because I'm going to make a decision. But I said, I'm making a decision that we're not going to do it. We'll stay here. But we have company and stuff come down. Elder Belcher will come, stay in that little old house. The bishops will come. Everybody come in that all of them come right in that house. There was financial decisions that I made, things that I purchased. She might have saw sometime a car that she might have wanted. I said, no, we're not going to get that right now. We're going to get this. Something that she wanted to buy, we're not going to get that right now. You get that. I remember she was getting ready to get it was her credit, her card, and boy, this went way in there. Because she got the card, and I told her, she was happy. Said, I got me a credit card. I said, no, you ain't. You're going to send that one back. And she said, oh, you trying to control me. I said, sure am. I said, with this, I'm on control. What do you mean control? First thing I explained to her is that the card is only like $300, $400, and they got a $100 activation fee. I said, now, first of all, I want you to understand this. You got a $300 card, but before you buy anything, you already paying $100, so you ain't got but $200 on this card. You paying $100 for them to cut the card on. Well, it's going to be on my credit. I said, no, you don't got to pay no $100 to build your credit. Just cut it out. Boy, that's a controlling spirit. I said, all right, well, let's control the spirit. But I had to make a decision that I thought was in the best interest. I have not always bought what she thought should be bought, purchased what she thought should be purchased, and I tried to make the decision that I felt like was in the best interest. That's maturity. When you get that mature, somebody got to be mature, because if both of you are immature with money, you'll be buying stuff unnecessary. Different things. When my kids went to the fair and different things like that, I ain't buy everything they cried and talking about they won't sit. I said, And if you got them little bands, you gonna ride everything they out there. Come on, let's ride. Let's ride. We going home though. You gonna ride. I done paid my $30 on this thing. You gonna ride. Ride that. I'm scared. Okay, I'll get on with you. Isha was over there at that Tampa fair. paid that money. She act like she don't want to get on nothing. She was scared as she could be. Always scared of something. She'd do all that talk, be scared to get on the ride and all that stuff. I said, oh, you going to ride today? So we went over there to Tampa and got over there at the State Fair and looked like everything they come on. Oh, she wanted to size it up. Oh, she be sitting up there shaking and say, Daddy said, what is that thing that's holding that together? I said, I don't know, Isha. I don't know how they built the thing. Man, I ain't getting on that. That thing can fall. Tay said, come on. Say, oh, I ain't getting on that. Well, you go on by yourself. You know, Isha, I ain't going on that stuff with me. You know, so I could find. So I finally got him to get on this little ride that go out in the water. And I this little boat thing that turn around. I'm like, finally got her to ride. I'm sitting there in line, watching them ride. They get in the middle of the water thing. Isha start panicking. I want to get out. I had to run up the stairs. I'm finna jump in the water because she finna jump out. She finna jump out of there. I said, girl, sit down. And she finna get out. Oh, we gonna drown. I said, you gonna drown if you jump in there. Just stay there. And Tay sit there. But the point of the matter is, I made sure when they made decisions, and those decisions was in the best interest of what I could afford. That's what I did. That was one thing. I wasn't going to be distracted from what I thought was best to purchase, what I thought was best to buy. I didn't leave those decisions up to her. So I got stuff and properties and stuff that I purchased, not bothering her funds, but I purchased them because I thought that was something that was needed. I made decisions that I thought that was needed. And she respected those decisions. That comes with maturity. I had to grow up where I could get that respect. When I first got married, I didn't have that. I wanted to buy a horse and didn't even have nowhere to keep it. Lost $350 on that horse. I ain't never seen him again. Silly decisions. But you get older, you mature. And so get me, by decision, 1 Peter 1:13, look what it says, be sober, all right? Let me get some comments. Let me get some thoughts. So if you want to be treated like an adult, then let's get that adult mentality. And what areas are we going to get? Speaking, comprehending, thinking, and then putting away childish things. Yes, ma'am. With money. Well, when I found out how much she had left over, it was quick. But for years, that was for years. But for years, I'm gonna admit for years. And the thing was, it wasn't like she controlled it. Well, there was two things. Two things was important. I want y'all to get this. Two things was important. One, she was making most of the money too. She was making a lot of it. She was working for the state, and she was making most of the money. She would have let me make the decision over, and I think she would. But the money that I get, I was liberal. I would give it away and do different things. Mother Maya, she would even, whenever they had an anniversary, she said, y'all about to do something with it because you know Pastor. He'll spend it. He'll give it all away. Just the different things that she would say. But Sister Cowart, she would she'd make sure the light bill, the water, because that was, if you want to ever hear me get crazy, let the light bill or water bill get turned off. I think it happened once, right? Once. She forgot it. But let me tell you something. You talking about somebody cut the food and showing out? I said, what is it? No. That was the water bill, light bill. And she forgot. She honestly forgot. And she was saying, I forgot. Oh, Lord, I forgot. Hey, you make mistakes too. I don't care what no mistake. When I cut on that water, I can't find no water. But that was me, because I wanted to make sure I didn't want my kids to ever grow up, because I never, ever turned on water in my mother's house and water didn't come out. I can't think about one time I flipped the light on and the light didn't come on. That was because that boy had went in there and broke in the house and cut and stole my 4x4 truck that I told y'all about. He cut the power off on the side of the house. But as far as that, so that was serious to me. That was serious to me. So she was more responsible. She was more mature in handling finance and handling money at that particular time. Once I kicked in, and that was her money. That was she made it, and then I had money that I contributed to it and added to it, and because she was the one that was responsible with it and the one that could handle it better, she handled it. Then when I got to a place that I could handle it, and then I made sure that she had money that she had, then I could be able to do more effective. And let me tell you something about that's very important to understand. It's very important to understand. Is that when you got that kind of liberty, part of a woman's maturity is when you got that kind of liberty that you don't have to pay any bills or do anything, have wisdom with it. Don't spend it crazily. Because you always want to be prepared in case there's help that's needed. When we had mothers open, I didn't have to ask this guy. So I got some extra money. I want to help with that. I want to contribute to that. Okay, yeah. I want. She said, I don't want you. I want to get something on my own. I don't want you to. I want to build my own credit. What do you mean? I said, well, I said, I'm going to get you a car. No, don't get me a car. I get my own car. I got some money saved up. I want to pay my own because I want to do it. So she did that on the first one that she had, and then she did it on another one. So she's able to do her own, establish her own, simply because that's maturity. You don't have the liberty to get money and you just go and waste it and buy. You got to have discipline. Maturity brings discipline. It brings discipline. Amen. So you tell when a man get mature when his money now starts to be about the household rather than by itself, about provision rather than by itself. And then he got his priorities straight, that he'll take care of his little things that he like last and make sure all the other stuff is taken care of first. He's got his mindset there. And then you'll tell that woman mind is mature when she understands the difference between needs and greeds. That's maturity. That's maturity. Any other question? I want to get some. No question? All right. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Oh yeah. If that, I think it depends. It depends upon what they're. It depends upon what they're doing. I don't think we ever charge the kids for staying. Never. But they had to be doing something. They either going to school or they doing something and working. I don't know. Did you ever want to charge them? You know that wasn't going down with me. You know that wasn't going down with me. But I wanted to make sure that they were mature and able to handle it, and then also teaching them the value. One of the things, and they still, I think in some cases, I might have created some standards that they look very, very high, and that's good. And I think in some cases they might get to the point that they don't understand sometimes. They may get to the point where they don't understand the value of money because they haven't had the time to have responsibility for them, and they don't always know daddy or mama will bail you out, But I think you have to teach them that responsibility, to teach them. And even if you don't do nothing like this, I remember one parent had a child staying in the house and told them they're going to charge them. So the child said, yeah, I'm going to charge them. So I'm going to charge them. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to charge them because I'm ready for them to get out of my house. And as soon as I save up enough for them to get out, I'm going to give them their money. So now you got your money, you get your own house. And that's exactly what they said. They charged $200 a month. I said, two. Pastor, I can't wait. They ain't got but a few more $100. And then they call me and they say, I want to talk to you. Say, you know all that money you've been saving up? Yeah. But I've been saving it too. It's time for you to get your own place. Here go your money. I got your down payment and everything. You go and get it. So they done taught them how to save and everything. Amen. All right. Any other question? So basically, let me just put everything in a nutshell. Basically, what we got to do is determine what adulthood is and determine that you don't reach adulthood because you're 18. That we determine what really causes adulthood, and that's responsibility. There's some people here that's how you think, how you understand, how you comprehend. And then you got to go back and ask yourself, just evaluate. This is all you got to do. If you want to see the age that you are, and I want y'all to get this, turn that paper around on the back. I'm going to give you a few things. And I want you to do a age test that you can do basically on some scenario questions that I would ask you and see where you are. So you start asking yourself, what's more important to buy? You ask yourself, so you got a house note that's due, right? You got a car note that's due, right? You're planning a vacation. Those are the three things. You got a house note, car note, planning a vacation, and you got a cable bill that's due, all right? All of them $200, okay? Which one do you pay? All right, everybody say the house, let me see your hand. Okay, all right, all right. Somebody gave another scenario, somebody said the car. You said the car. All right, let's talk about that. Who all said the house? Right? Who all said the car? Okay, why you say the house? Did you say the car? Why you say the car?
If you're grown, you need to get from places, especially transportation-wise. You want to have a way to get to your job or church or get your necessities that you need.
So she said you need a car because you need to have a way to get to work. You said the house or the car?
House, because you can get other forms of, you can get somebody to pick you up, you can get an Uber, like there's other ways to get places. So I would say the house.
All right, so who say house, who say car? You say house? All right, Sister there, you say house.
House, because you can walk. You can walk, where you want to go.
Well, look, the point is, now watch, I want y'all to see this. This is what I want to see. The point is, it's not even a decision you made, but I'm understanding that you got some logic behind your decision. Now, this doesn't mean that anybody's right, but what it does mean is this, that somebody's saying, I think you should get the car because you need a way to go to work. That's thinking behind your decision. The other one says, I think you need a house because if you need to go to work, you can go and get somebody else to take you to work. Now, let's do some more adult thinking from here. And we got that out. Let's narrow it down to two things. We got the car and the house. All the car people raise your hand. All right? All the house people raise your hand. I want one of y'all car people need to respond to why you still think you need a car rather than a house. And then I'm going to have a house person.
You need a car to get back and forth to work so you can pay that house note.
Not even just that, but being able to leave.
Hold on.
Being able to leave whenever you want to leave and come back whenever you need to come back.
Okay.
Well, you're not going to have a house to live in to pay if you do not pay that house. See, I can walk or I can make arrangements to get to work and so that I can have the money to pay the house. And I can even work a little bit extra so that I can save up money in order to get that transportation. But if I pay that car note, I might be living in that car.
All right, so let me ask a question. All right, you're a house person, right? All right, now let's ask a question. Let's get another question. I want to ask a question to that. But these are the kind of thoughts that should be going in your mind when you're making decisions. That's all I want to show. Now, let me ask this. All right, I'm going back. Sister April got her hand up. Let me see this. But now, what about if the job is too far, let's say the job is a little further, then you got to pay people to get back and forth to work. So, those are thoughts that you have. I'm just saying, nobody's right or wrong, but I'm saying in your minds, these are the kind of, when you make decisions like this, these are kind of thoughts that should be going on your mind. Most people now, they get to a certain age, they just make a decision and they just do it. But this stuff should be going back and forth in your head. The car people not right, the house people not right, because they're not wrong or right. Your circumstance could be different. But all I'm saying, before you make the decisions, these should be thoughts that you're thinking in your head, all right? I'm going to get April, I'm going to get... No, right. Okay, that may... All right, but the point I'm making is that all I'm saying is that when you're thinking, now, let me say this. Now, I want y'all to get this. I want you to get this scenario. You have no house, right? You have no car. You have no job, okay? And you're homeless, but you have $200. How would you, that's all you got, $200. How would you survive in that with $200 to get, and you're gonna work until the next, you gotta get together for the next, you got 7 outfits that's already clean. You get this scenario, and you gotta try to find you a job and everything by that next month. You got 30 days to do that. What would you do? All right, let me hear from you, Courtney. How would you fix that? What would you do? You got $200.
Well, okay, so I need to eat, I need to bathe, and I need to get to where I need to go to get a job. So I have a membership at the gym, so I would bathe at the gym.
That's my thinking.
$200, I will go and buy some seeds to plant a garden so I could eventually eat from there. And while I am waiting for my plants to grow, I will buy like small stuff that I could just eat from like throughout the week and just eat more than once. And then after that, then I'll just go ahead and like do a bike or to catch the bus to try to get to where I need to go.
Okay, that's a good thought. Let's hear somebody else. Let me hear what you would do. We're not combating her. We're just saying, what would I do in that circumstance? All right.
I'll find a way to flip it and invest in something to get more money.
Find a way to flip it and invest. That's what you do. Anybody else? All right. Yes, ma'am. Sister Christy D.
I would get a bus pass for a month, and then not only I get a bus pass for a month, then also I will buy food and toiletries, and then if I'm homeless, then if the church has a house like we do, then I can always use the house here. I like your idea. And I like the gym idea. Now, I probably wouldn't buy no toilet paper, but I would be going to McDonald's every day. Probably Starbucks. I'll be going to Starbucks or somewhere. I'm going somewhere. I got my own toilet paper. Praise the Lord. But listen, the point I'm making is that these are decisions that adults, if you make them, I think these are decisions. Now, nobody mentioned going to get a job, right? No, you ain't got a job. Yeah, you got to get a job. So I mean, I think I probably like that gym thing because you see, I think it's $20 a month down there to 10. But see, they got 10, and then I probably get the $10. But they got them lounge chairs back there. You can go to sleep down there. So I have somewhere to go to sleep, and I have somewhere to take a bath and all that, then get me a job. But all I'm doing is I'm asking you to challenge your mind and to challenge your thoughts. Yes, ma'am. She said people in the world buy some drugs. Well, you might go to jail. But if you go to jail, though, you will have a place to stay and somewhere to bathe. You get all that'll be taken care of one day. So you go to jail, you gonna have your food, your bed in your shelter. I don't know if that's the best one, but one thing you will have a place to stay, a place to eat. Might not be where you want, but all right. Anyone else? All right. So I think that let me ask you to give me some hard decisions that people have to make. One of you that can give me a scenario of some decision that people have to make. Make a scenario for me. Anybody got one? Anybody coming up with one? Thinking about one?
All right. Too much time. Okay, Rose had one.
Say like, some elderly people, like they may have to have medications to survive and also bills to pay, like maybe rent or something, and it's a decision between the two. Like, what do I pay for?
Bills, and when you ultimately when you have decisions that need to be paid with bills, and you have to make a choice between those bills. That's a good scenario with an adult, because that is a challenge people have now. People have to choose between their medicine and their cars, their medicines and their houses, their insurance and those kind of things there. And how would you I think me, if I was older and I knew how to cook, and I got a little bit of stamps or something, I have me a fish fry somewhere. I do something and try to, and then I wouldn't have no fish fry that I'm buying no fish from what's the name. Fishing, and in that gym, them two things I have. I have me a fishing pole, some worms, because I know I'm gonna eat some fish. Fishing and a worm, and then I have to get some of it. I have to get some of it. Get some salt so that I may have to take some and sun dry it, but I'm gonna eat. Amen. Well, let's all stand to our feet. I hope this lesson has been beneficial to you. Remember, adulthood is how you think and not the number. Amen. Lift your hands up. So good to see Pastor Porter tonight. Amen. Thank God.